This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com.
Hey, what do you think? I read online. I haven't done any interviews for it. I don't know if there's anything done. Did you do anything for the Owens DVD that WWE is going to produce?
No, I think they're that's a work in progress still. I think they're working on getting some of the family members this week. I think in the next few days.
Oh, cool. To
be part of that. I know Owen's widow's not part of it, and not happy with it. But I think that I think it's important to remember what Owen accomplished in wrestling, and I disagree with her on her position about Owen.
I think that there's a lot of fans loved him, like many of us in the business loved him, and a lot of them want to show their kids. A lot of the younger wrestlers want to see his work because he was absolutely, you were so good that you stole a little bit of his thunder, simply because you were really good. I mean, you were one of the best ever, and he was too. That's what people don't get. In different companies or at different times, or he was a little bit younger, or he came 10 years after you or whatever, I think he'd be perceived entirely differently. He was one of the best in-ring performers I ever saw. And I say that not because I'm trying to kiss your ass, but because of the fact that I never saw him have a bad match. He could do anything he wanted to do, and he could make anybody he was in a ring with better than they were.
There's only a handful of guys that I can say it about, and the two that come to mind have always been Mr. Perfect and Owen. Were the only two guys that, not the only two guys, but two guys that come to mind the most prominently anyway. You didn't have to talk to them.
Yeah.
They could be in a totally different side of the stadium in a different dressing room, and the referee could come over and just say, we need 25 minutes, or we need whatever it was. You didn't need to even communicate, and you could go out in the ring and you could have as good a match as you ever had, just figuring it out in there and just relaxing and just letting it flow and just working with each other like almost like you're working in Stu's basement without fans there.
Right.
And Curt Hennig was the same. He was so terrific to work with. Like you could just we didn't need to talk or converse or anything. You could have thrown us in ice cold, and lots of times we did work ice cold, and we just went out there and had a 5-star match every time and come back, and it's like it's something that's natural, ingrained in their it's in their being, like the same as me. You grow up watching it and you do it all your life. You just have an instinct for it, and Owen was just I miss a lot of times when I see matches back from those days, like in '94 when I was wrestling Owen. It makes me feel bad that we didn't tape, or that nobody filmed or taped some of the matches that we had later in there. They always filmed the WrestleMania 10. You see that and you hear a lot about that match. But that was the very first match we ever worked. We never worked ever before that. And
wow.
We had one match, ice cold, and that was Madison Square Garden. It was pretty darn good. And then
it was.
I know we went to England after WrestleMania 10, and Owen and me worked for about 2 weeks straight over there, and I just remember like a month later we were wrestling all around. We had I think it was Wrestling and Rampage tour, and then they kept Owen and I together, and we worked. But our matches got so much better by summer, July or August. Me and Owen were having such great matches, like so much better than when I watch today. I go, those were good matches, but those are the first ones we had before we even took it up a notch. And and a little bit the same with Mr. Perfect. They don't have a lot of the best matches that we had. We had a few in the beginning, but there was so many matches that we had that were so. I just wish there'd been a camera there to film it and to capture it, and so that we could look back on it today. Because they're both Perfect and Owen were two guys that I would love to wrestle. I wake up sometimes in the middle of the night in the ring with them.
That's amazing. That's a great memory, though. And you'll always have that in your heart and your soul, your brother. I think about him all the time. Owen and I used to do this thing. We'd meet each other in the hall and we'd lock up. We did all the time. We'd lock up. I mean, stiff, kind of good. And sometimes we'd not say a word. We'd lock up, and then he'd continue going his way, and I'd go my way. And people would look around, what the hell are those guys doing? What did you just lock up with Owen for? I said, we just do it all the time. It's just part of the business. You don't get it. So I see him coming down the hall, and he's staggering, playing. He's doing a really poor job of playing a drunk. And he's got. They had donuts at the catering, these powdered donuts. So he gets the powdered sugar off the donuts and puts them all over his nose, like he's been doing cocaine. So he's so unversed in cocaine, not knowing that it takes you the other way. That it doesn't bring you down; it takes you the other direction. He don't know, so he just knows that I've been in this meeting this endless meeting, drug counseling somebody, and so he's just going to have some fun with it. So I oh no, not another one. So I said, look, it ain't going to work. First of all, you got powdered sugar in your nose, and secondly, if you're doing anything like that, you're going to be going the other direction. And so he started laughing, and then we locked up. And then he went on his way, and I went on mine. He just screwing around. Just, you told a story one time, and I don't remember, where he convinced Davey that a statue was talking to him or looking at him.
Yeah. He put the window down and asked the statue for directions, and pretended he was arguing with and telling. I think he asked Davey to. And Davey was yelling at the statue for directions or something along those lines. But Owen, he never missed an opportunity. He was always a guy that he'd pull the funniest pranks on you because it would sometimes it's just an opening of 1 second where something can happen, and Owen would jump on those kind of moments, and you find yourself arguing it out with the bell clerk or somebody at the airport, or and Owen would be snickering as he'd set the whole thing up. He was he never missed an opportunity to rip somebody.
No, it was great. That when he told when David had a few too many, I guess, and the statue, this town square, they were trying to. The way I heard it was everybody was either changing drivers or trying to scrub the ice off the windshield, something. Anyway, this statue was in this town square or something to that effect, and Owen starts talking to the statue like it was a human, and then Davey says, "What's going on?" And Owen says, "This guy's said something," and then then Davey starts arguing with the statue as it's a big human being, and Owen set it all up, and it was just the story was just so absolutely hilarious. You could get all these stories and put them with a real creative movie producer and come up with one of the funny wrestling movies. Instead of having a tragic story, you could have a funny wrestling movie.
That's the thing about Owen is that there's so many happy memories tied in with Owen. Most of the wrestlers, like when I reminisce with Edge or Jericho or different guys that were around Owen, the humor and the laughter that you can get going about so many funny moments. I wish Owen's kids could hear some of the great stories that so many wrestlers and the people that are in the business talk about, that just remember little things about Owen. Like I had a good laugh with Triple H a few months ago. We were talking about Owen the time, I think it was Henry Godwin was wrestling him in some kind of a pig pen match or something, and it was in Hershey.
Right.
And I remember the guy with the big truck filled with animals showed up for the pig pen match, and he came in, he goes, "Where did these animals go?" And I remember Owen said, like acting like he knew exactly where they were supposed to go. Said, "Yeah, just bring them down here." And the guy kept bringing the live animals like sheep and goats and
pigs
down the hall, and brought them right into Vince's room. And Owen had them all in Vince's office. And I remember by the time Vince got in, they knocked all the furniture over and they crapped on the rug in there, and they did a bunch of stuff. But I remember it was just so funny that I remember Triple H and I laughing our heads off about how funny it was.
Yeah, the hog pen match in Hershey, because I had to do the interview with the winner, and of course I'm going to be wearing the hog manure on I wore bib overalls over my suit, and a big old pair of knee-high rubber boots like a farmer would wear, around water or a fisherman or something. And I had as many clothes on as I could get because I knew that the pig manure was coming my way. Because the heel, Triple H was going over. He did. And but I remember that Owen was directing traffic. And the time that Vince got there, that office smelled like a barn. It smelled like a menagerie. There was more different kinds of animal manure in that office that you could ever imagine. And I don't know if how you ever get the smell out of it. It was just absolutely hilarious. So that's what he did. He just made people laugh, and I hope that I would assume that the other members of the family, Bret, and I don't know this, but I'm assuming that the other family members, other than Martha, seemingly or probably are supportive of this DVD.
Oh, I think everyone is. I think, I think Martha's had her chance to remember Owen, but I think she chooses to erase him or just forget him. Like whatever happened with Owen there's been very little mention of him over the last 15 years or so. I think she just assumed I think she said something about letting Owen live in peace, and I just think, there's a lot of people that miss him and would love to, remember him and fondly about all the great stories that could be told. And I know he's gone, but let's try to remember him as well as we can. And I think Martha's on the wrong track. I think with her position of trying to erase everything he did in wrestling just seems childish and kind of I don't know, it seems a little selfish.
Well, I know that when we get to London, that there'll be Owen stories told, and there'll be questions asked. I think I'm going to do a Q&A with you and Sean. So, my God, we'll go back to Montreal again, and again, and that'll be what it is. I feel for you because you lived it, and then you get over it, which you've done an amazing job of bringing closure and sanity to a crazy situation, but then it never ends.
Well, I can reflect on a lot of that now, and I've always had people, question what I did as being right or wrong, and I got different people that always got a different take on what I should have done or what should have happened that day. And I always, no matter what anyone says about it today, I'm very proud of how I handled myself at that time. And it was a tough thing to go through. And on the end of it, like, I don't know if it was the greatest thing in the world to punch Vince and to knock him out and to leave the way I did. But I also know at Link I proved that that this business meant a lot to me, and that I stood up for myself. And I know through the years, I've had different wrestlers come up to me and shake my hand and be proud of it. I've always said, been really proud of what I did, and I basically kind of threw that punch for everybody in the business. And when I look back on them, I'm more and more that I reflect on, I'm kind of proud of how I handled myself and how I dealt with that whole thing happening to me in front of the world. And I'm grateful that my side of the story eventually got told, and even WWE, I think now, and Vince and everyone sort of, they own up to what they did and how they conducted themselves, and I don't think they look very good for how I think they realize maybe all these years later that there's better ways to do business than the way they did it that day with me in Montreal.
Yeah, I think you're right. Well, hey, look, it's going to be a great time in London. I know that your popularity in Europe, as it is everywhere, but especially you're so big in Europe, Germany. I remember that. It's got to be so gratifying, and people are flying in from all over the place. And again, if you guys are listening around in that part of the woods, it's June 20th and 21st at the Tower Bridge Hotel.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.